Hello and welcome to today's video in where I show you my entire Boss pedal collection. So the first pedal that I want to start with is the Boss Super Overdrive SD1. I bought it used and for very cheap, and well, it's an overdrive of course, and I use this pedal very often as a tube screamer. This is the circuitry here is, or the wiring is actually really close to a tube screamer. You just have to change some small parts to make it sound exactly like a tube screamer. And I use it to boost an already distorted amp, level at full, drive to taste, although here it's maxed for some reason, and tone to taste. And I actually prefer it over the tube screamer. I think it's beefier sounding. The next pedal is the Boss Overdrive Distortion OS2. And this basically combines an overdrive and a distortion circuitry. I again bought it used and for very cheap. And I use this the same way as I use the Super Overdrive to boost an already distorted amp. This thing has a bit more gain, so I use it when I want a really heavy sound, so more of a sludgy, grittier sound, and the Super Overdrive is, well, more modern or more tight, however you want to call it. Although my most favorite setting is the overdrive at 0 and then slightly blend in some distortion flavor, because I actually don't like the distortion circuitry here, but with a little bit it sounds really awesome. And then again, level full, tone to taste, and distortion really low, or drive as it's called here. Next is my Boss DS1, the classic distortion. I bought this used as well. And to be honest, I actually don't use this pedal this much. Last time I've used it was in the chainsaw files comparison, the ultimate chainsaw comparison. Because it can sound chainsawy when it's in front of a driven amp with the settings that I have here, tone and level full and distortion to taste. But nowadays I don't use it this much. If I would use it, I would use it as a center or a supplementary guitar sound for my basic HM2, as did Entombed. Next up is the Boss DS2, the Turbo Distortion, and this pedal was really cheap as were most of my Boss pedals actually. And this is the one that I think gets not the most used, but at least the second most used, because this is actually on my live pedal board, and I use it as of right now for Nightbearer and for every lead sound, because I don't think that the HM2 is a particular good pedal for doing leads, especially when combined with a wah guitar pedal. And since I do use wah pedals, I had to come up with another solution, and as of right now it's the Turbo Distortion. I use this exactly settings. I especially love the turbo mode because it retains a slight chainsawy flavor without getting too chainsawy, so that the wah pedal has no function and you can't hear if I use it or not. And that's why it's on the pedal board. However, I might change it out in the future. Next up is my Boss HM2. This one is the one made in Japan. It's the most frequently used pedal from Boss that I have, because I use it in every Chainsaw Files episode as my reference pedal. This one is from January 1986. Thanks to HM2 Cult, who made me look up for it. But that's of course not my only HM2. I have one more. This is made in Taiwan, excuse me, and I use this again for referencing, although not as often. So this gets actually no real use. And then I have a third HM2. It's made in Taiwan as well. And this is a bit rougher, more beaten up. This one I bought to use with Nightbearer, and in the early days of Nightbearer, which sounds kind of funky because we only exist like 3 years or so, and 2 of them were COVID years. And I actually used this on a couple of shows, the very first ones with Nightbearer. Nowadays it doesn't get much love and I rarely use it, although this sounds killer and it sounds better than this one here actually. The next pedal I own is the Boss Metalzone MT2. This is a standard Metalzone, and this one I don't use at all anymore because which I show you later, I have the WASA Craft edition. But this is a really nice preamp pedal to use in the FX return of your amp. And if I'm ever going to use it, I use it with the EQ or the mid EQ frequency actually at noon, and it's a slight cut or a slight boost, it depends on the mood I'm in. I boost the highs and I slightly reduce the lows, gain to taste, and then I use it in the FX return for a nice metal sound. Maybe a boost in front of it, and I think I haven't actually recorded with it. However, if the right project comes up, I can totally see myself use the MT2 as a main distortion sound. Then I own a Boss Metalcore ML2. This one wasn't actually this cheap, but I bought it because you guys demanded me to do a comparison of the MT2. And lots of you guys prefer the Metalcore over the Metalzone, and as this is totally fine with me, I don't. I prefer the Metalzone, and therefore I don't use this pedal at all, actually, just for comparison videos. Can't say much about it, sorry. So I not only own some HM2s, I own an HM3, the Boss Hyper Metal. I got this cheap as well. And as with the Metalcore, I don't really like the sound, therefore I don't use it this much. I only use it for ultimate chainsaw comparison videos. However, I should try this out more often because it has a nice complementary chainsaw sound, but the right project hasn't come up yet. As I've said before, I own the Metalzone WASA as well. I hesitated to buy it because it was too pricey for me, but then I got it for a good used price. I finally bought it and I'm actually blown away by this quality. It has replaced my original Metalzone fully. I use this whenever I practice into my PV Rage combo as my main distortion unit, again in the FX return. And it has a nice sound. I think it sounds a bit tighter, more modern, more cleaned up than the original MT2. And I actually prefer to use it in custom mode as well. The settings here, I don't use those settings. Yes, as my main tone when practicing. But I can totally see myself use this for a recording as well. Now actually the only Boss pedal that I bought brand new, the HM2W. I bought it because I think I had to. I have a channel dedicated to an HM2. I would look silly if I hadn't bought one. I think it's decent. I don't think it sounds better than the original pedals. I don't think it sounds way worse. It sounds a bit different, although very, very similar, very close. The custom mode, I don't use this often. I don't like the custom mode actually. And this pedal actually I don't use this often. I only use it as a reference, but most of the time it gets no playtime. But I have one. So cool. So those are actually all my Boss pedals. However, I have 4 more Boss pedals, but they are modded by other companies. But for the purpose of completion, I show them to you anyways. I have another Boss MT2. This one is modded by Anarchy Audio from Australia, and this was gifted to me by the interface, so thanks again for this gift. It has a chainsaw modification and it does a really awesome chainsaw, and well, I use it to get some more flavor. Then I have another MT2. This one is modded by AIB Customs. It has a chainsaw mod as well, and it's very quiet. I use this again for different chainsaw flavor if I need one. Same goes for my second Hyper Metal HM3. This one has a chainsaw mod as well from AIB Customs, and I use it if I want to have a different flavor. And I highly prefer this HM3 over the original actually. Although when I have to choose between the two of those, I prefer the MT2 a bit more than the HM3 here. I am not sure which one I prefer here actually. I should re-listen and make a final decision. And the last pedal you see me here having is Boss DS1. This one is modded by HIB Customs as well. Here is the sticker, and it has a green LED, I think, or blue. It's a chainsaw modification, and I really like it. I use it sometimes for videos, and if I want to have a different chainsaw flavor, as with all the other modded pedals. So those were all my Boss pedals. And now you might ask if I plan to buy any other Boss pedals in the future, and the answer is yes. For instance, I'm currently searching for the Boss ODB3, I think it's a bass distortion, and I always look out for other gain pedals that Boss has. For instance, the DS1X or the OS2 or OS1, OD1, whatever, and the Boss Blues driver. For instance, as far as other pedals go, for instance, delay, chorus, phaser, I don't really search one. Maybe the GE7 or the GE7 bass EQ. Oh, and now that I think about it, there are some more pedals, but the digital feedback or DF2, I think, and the digitizer, the black and red one, or the metalizer, however it's called. However, those are really pricey, and I don't want to spend this much money on the pricey pedals where I assume I don't use them this often and I only buy them basically for review purposes. But yeah, that's my current collection, and there might be some new additions. So now I'm curious, let me know down in the comments what's your Boss collection, what pedals do you own, and what pedals do you think I should try? Just leave a comment. Oh, and if you want to support this channel, check out the links in the description. There is actually a digital replication of the Boss Heavy Metal HM2 made by Audiority. So if you're into plugins, maybe it's for you. And with this said, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my Instagram. And I have TikTok as well. May the force be with you and have a nice day.